Namastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, now the answer to this question, sometimes when the Upanishads talk about the realities, they start with who you are and then they discuss what is the cause of the universe and then they reconcile everything. Sometimes the inquiry starts with the cause of the universe and then you are brought in. So in this Upanishad, what they do is, they actually talk about Ishvara first. So because in order to answer the question who you are, you first need to see where the universe comes from and then what is your place in this universe and what is your real nature in this universe. So therefore, the answer to this question starts with what explanation of how the universe comes, and it says Sanyuktam etan ksharam aksharam cha vyakta avyaktam bharate vishvamishaha anisham cha atma badhyate bhoktuhu bhavat jnatva devam muchyate sarvam. So in fact, in this very first verse, which is actually the 8th verse, it really explains what the nature of things are. Okay? So here he says that this whole universe, I liked when Anna said in the morning that she liked, this Buddhist thought when it was talking about cause and effect. But the minute, everything they also say is what constantly changing. And also one thing depends upon the other, one thing depends upon the other. And what is at the bottom is what they call nothingness. And she said she could not accept the idea that everything comes from nothing. And that's a very good thing. See, right now there is a universe. Nobody can deny that. The very fact that there is this body, there is that body, there is this body, there are these objects. That means there is a time. What is the definition of universe? There is time, there is space and object. That is the universe. So that means nobody can deny that there is universe. Now, if there is a universe, then you can naturally, what is a legitimate question is, what is the cause of the universe? Where did it come from? Very legitimate question, right? Where did it come from? So now, where it came from, there are 3 kind of answers. One is, what we say is, like if you use the model of science, there is a they attempt to answer, how did the universe come about? And when they attempt to answer, what they talk about is, in fact they do talk about the Big Bang theory is actually talking about what? From a singular point comes, everything becomes multiple. And that is actually very close to Vedanta. So therefore, from that, but nobody knows what that singular point is. That is really the nature of the problem. Because why is it that science cannot find it? Because see, the whole science is made. The whole science, the basis of science is observation. So you collect the data and then you use the data and very sophisticated inference to come to conclusions. and those inferences have to be very tight and very logical, and each logic has to fit in, and it also has to fit into the whole theory. So therefore it is a very delicate process. But the thing is that if there was one object which was the cause of the universe, then science can observe it. But if an object is not the cause of the universe, if it is the intelligence which cannot be perceived, then they have no access. So this is why they do come to a point that there is, from that singular comes the multiple. In fact, it's very close to Upanishads. But what is that singular, they can't pinpoint because it is not available for observation. Not available.
Beyond perception.
Because entire science, please understand, entire science is based on the data. Observation, data, and then inference, analysis of the data. Right? So now, if it is not available, so that means, please understand, neither today nor 100 years from now or 1000 years from now, if the whole system is based on observation of data, it will never be available. So therefore, that is something that it's a limitation, because the methodology is based on what? The data gathering, which is based on perception.
And the second thing why science also struggles is they do not assume a universe to be intelligent.
That also.
They never thought, they never said the universe is
So that
chaos.
means, yes, exactly.
So again, no physical availability of intelligence, right? It's not to the perception.
Exactly. So that's why you can't. So that is why, and because they can't find, and then they don't, because intelligence is something which you cannot observe.
Exactly.
So that's why they can't conclude that.
Correct.
So that's why inherently, if you use science, they are very intelligent, but they can't come to this whole conclusion. That's why, in fact, in a way, if science had the scope, you would not need Vedanta. Vedanta would become redundant. The very fact that it is not within the scope of science, therefore Vedanta has a role to play. It has a value added. But at the same time, it does not contradict science either. So whatever it talks about is very much in sync, in convergence with science. So that is one thing. The second, that's a scientific approach. Then if you look at the religious so-called, this is why there are people who are scientists like Schrödinger. Schrödinger was a contemporary of Einstein, and he said that science can figure out many different things, but about the meaning and purpose of life, what are we doing, it has no access. Really has no access. So therefore he says we have to look to what philosophy to get that answer. And being a scientist, what he did is, he looked at different philosophies of those times, and being a person of logical mind, he kind of saw the logical flaws in most of the philosophies, where it is coherent and where it falls apart. And he concluded the book by saying that there is only one system of thought which cannot be contradicted, and that is Vedanta. Cannot be contradicted by reasoning. So therefore, this is something which is a huge thing, right? So that means that there are scientists who themselves will agree that the scope of science is not to find out the truth, it's very difficult. And that is something that you need to look somewhere else. So Vedanta has a scope. Now, so he was looking at philosophy, but who attempts to answer these questions where you are, where you are coming from? Mostly people look to what? Religion to find these answers. Where is the cause of the universe? What's your relationship with whatever the God? So that's why it all falls within what? One is a philosophical inquiry, but very predominantly it is what? A religious inquiry. Now, the religious, when you make it a religious pursuit, there are three positions. What are the positions? One is an atheist, the other one is an agnostic, and the third is a believer. Yeah? So who is an atheist? The atheist is the one who says that there is no God. Yeah? And in a way, the atheist also, there are different variations. Either the atheist is just kind of an arrogant person, no, there is no God, or an atheist is what? A scientist who knows a lot about how things are. So it's not just one category, please understand. Very different variants in that category. Now, so now the atheist needs a correction in one's thinking, whether the atheist is a simple atheist or it's a scientist. We need a correction, and the correction is done by logic. In Vedanta we use logic to correct, right? So how do we correct? We say that look at a simple thing which is, let's say, this watch. And if I tell you that this watch is a result of evolution, so somehow one wire came, and then the steel came, then the battery came, and they just kind of organized themselves just like that to make a watch. What does this story look like?
A fairy tale.
It seems like a fairy tale. You just laugh. It's laughable, right? So now, in the simple case of a watch, we find that it's a funny story. It's unbelievable. Now look at the grand universe that you see, and you look at the design that is the universe. And what Rajan was saying yesterday is, it was interesting. What he was saying, now I have to give new stories, right? I can't keep using the same story of the sun and the cells and this and that. So what he was telling is, he was telling that below the earth, how much you go down
20
below?
feet.
Huh?
20 feet below.
You go down the earth, like you dig the earth, and you go down, and 20 feet, and no matter which part of the earth you are, the temperature there is 21 degrees. 21 degrees. So that means outside you can have Norway, which is so cold, and India, which is hot, and Thailand, which is even hotter. But if you dig in 20 feet, the temperature is exactly the same, which is 21 degrees. Okay. Now you have to give me the sources, because people will ask me now, where did I get it from? Now imagine, so what he said is that people try to use that 21 temperature, and they said, okay, now this is a good refrigeration. Imagine that I just use the earth, then I have to do away with so much electricity that we use to keep the temperature at 20-21 degrees to keep everything cool. So what they started doing is, they started using the natural, going down 21. And he says, by putting something, what happens is, you're disturbing the natural balance, and it led to earthquakes. So that means the formula which is putting everything together, so that means it is amazing. Because on the surface, imagine, you have very different temperatures. One country is very cold, one is very hot, one is tropical, one is temperate, so you have all kinds of different. But if you go 20 feet and you dig in, then it's exactly uniform temperature. What intelligence! Try to do it. It's so precise. And then if human being begins to, now they check, they haven't produced it, they figured it out. Having figured out, they wanted to use that temperature to use it as a natural, cost-free refrigeration technique. But the minute they begin to have a little bit of interference, what happens? They create huge imbalances. Huge. So that means things are so intricately put together. little addition by us, little will create such a huge imbalance. So that means the arrangement is what done to the precision. Precision where it is just mind-boggling. So now, this is something which is where you can't but see the intelligence. You can't. It can't be just like that, but just like that nothing happens. So therefore, that level of intelligence you find, that level of precision you find in the universe, and that is, and in fact, when a scientist looks into all of that, right? What do they do? Which is the communication language in science? Mostly mathematics.
Correct. Formulas.
Formulas. So that means that means it's not just wishy-washy thing. Formulas are exact. Precision. You can't deviate even little, because the minute you deviate a little, you get something else. Different answers. So that means these formulas are all what? Totally well designed. Little deviation will give you different result. So this is where it's, even though scientists don't see it as intelligence, they are constantly looking into intelligence. This is the biggest kind of irony. They are accessing the intelligence in the universe, but they are not able to give it a name called what? Ishvara. And there was a very nice movie. If any one of you get a chance, you must see this movie. And the name of the movie is The Man Who Knew Infinity. It is about Ramanuja. So it is a recent movie, very, very well produced movie. So there was this very great mathematician called Ramanuja in South India, and he was in the temples, and in the creation he started seeing all the patterns. And those patterns were all formulas. He just started seeing it. And people heard about him, so they called him to Cambridge. And the professor at Cambridge, he was a dean, and he was totally fascinated by him. And he says, yeah, things are like this, like this, like this. And he said, but how? You show me the method, how you're proving it. And he says, no, I see it. The professor said, you see it means it, there is no proof, right?
Yes.
So you can't, so he says, now I'm going to train you to lead to this and show how it is so. And what happens is, each one, in that interaction between that Cambridge professor
Hardy.
and Ramanuja,
Yes.
Frank
Frank Hardy. So they both learn from each other. What Hardy learns is that this man's access to knowledge is something else, right? Not this linear method of this logic, and then you arrive at it. He just sees it.
In fact, he says it is the goddess which is showing me.
Yeah, so that I will tell you.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then the other, Ramanuja is what? It is like anything that you see, you need to substantiate it before it becomes a theory. He also learns. It's not like only Hardy learns from him, even Ramanuja learns from him. Now, in the end, there was a very interesting dialogue. In the end, it was just an amazing discovery. It's so well done, that movie. Very well done. Very nuanced movie. And in the end, he says, yeah, but tell me, how do you figure out all these things? So he says that, it's the goddess who tells me everything. I see the patterns which are all there, And the other person says, I totally understand your genius, but I'm an atheist.
Yeah.
I don't believe in God. And Ramanuja replies to him by saying that if there was no God, if there was no intelligence, this will be all just empty formulas. I see no meaning behind it. Just what? Nothing. And that's what he says. The whole thing gets its beauty, gets its depth, relevance, profundity because of the play of intelligence, If you miss it, it's just what? Some physical, what? Some 3 and some 2 and some mixing of sigma and theta and what? What is sigma? What is theta? So that means it's all kind of looking into the intelligent design. The intelligent design.
It is to a point, Ramanuja's genius, that still it is last century.
Yes.
So it's not like contemporary, it's last century. And to a point that even now, some of his formulas and mathematical formulas that he had insight into are used now for modeling the behavior of the black holes.
In fact, they have not even
So
understood
you see the kind of insights that he got. And many of the theorema and so on are still not, a lot of his books and what he has written, many of these people have not come to understand how he has come to that. But the way he has proved some of these amazing facts in mathematics are used by other people to arrive to greater truth and greater modelings and so on. So it's just amazing.
They're still, I think 50% of the formulas are still not
Exactly.
unraveled.
Yeah.
People are studying. Every year they discover, they figure out one, every 2-3 years,
Yeah,
one
exactly.
gets cracked.
Yeah.
So there are people who are trying to crack that formula of his, saying, how did he arrive at step 1 to step 10?
Exactly.
What is in between step and how did he come? So it's a big thing which he's done. He was 32 when he passed away.
Yeah, 32 when he passed away. Ramanuja.
He went to London,
Yeah.
but the problem is he's a very...
No more.
He was a
Oh, no,
vegetarian.
it's last century.
When was it? 1930s, 1940s?
No, even
18th
Even
century,
before.
19th century. So he went to London. Unfortunately, he
And
was a
19th.
typical Tamil Brahmin. So he was doing all the rituals there.
Kerala.
And he was wearing bare body. And he caught up pneumonia and he caught up this thing, infection, and
And he was a vegetarian and he could hardly
so he
eat,
struggled with
eat
food, he
anything.
struggled with the weather, and he couldn't handle that part.
We died at the age of 32.
32 he passed.
Is this an Indian movie?
Shankara also died
Yeah,
at
it is an
32.
Indian
Swami
movie.
Vivekananda also died at 32, 35 something.
Oh really?
I think all these people are nothing but avatars, some or other. They all, because at the age of 32, what person will understand? Today at the age of 32, we still there.
So there's a big theory of
You are-
list of people who died at 32 and say they are all great people.
They are not great people, they are not people only, they are something else. Because till the age of 15 we don't know much. And in 15 years they do so much and go away. This Shankara wrote at the age of 32, he died.
Yeah.
So he wrote so many Bhashyams. So at that age, how can he write Bhashyams?
Yeah. Anyway, so that means that the precision of that intelligence is something that is expressed through formulas, and those formulas are an expression of the beauty of the universe actually. They don't say it like that, but it is like that.
Actually,
It's
now
an
science-
insight into how the universe works, the complicated, the precision of how the universe works.
In fact, the last 100 years, there has been no great scientific discovery, and one of the reasons apparently they said is they have not, because they didn't take the universe to be intelligence. So now they have said we have to assume the universe is intelligent to make any progress in science anymore. Because we are stuck at that point because nothing else is falling in place because we are not assuming the intelligence. So now they are saying we'll
Exactly,
start with intelligence and then we'll start figuring out more.
And this is exactly what this Dustin who came to Kodaikanal, so that's exactly what he was saying. So he came we had a retreat at Kodaikanal, and there was an American guy, he came, and his IQ was like very close to Einstein IQ, so a very bright guy. And he came, he was a PhD, no, he was an undergraduate in physics, and then he was going to join the PhD program. And he got a scholarship to come to our retreat. So I said, well, how did you get a scholarship to come to our retreat? So he says that there was a committee, and he wrote this Schrödinger. He said that, Schrödinger is saying that there is only one philosophy which cannot be contradicted, and that is Vedanta. So he wanted to little bit study Vedanta and see what it has to say. And he said what he said, Rajan is saying, that after Einstein and all, there is hardly any major discoveries, hardly anything. They do little research, but nothing earth-shaking. So he says that now they are looking for something very big, and they run out of ideas. Because that linear approach doesn't get them anywhere. It makes them even narrower and narrower and narrower, but they don't get the whole thing. It eludes them.
In fact, Einstein's
The
last
bigger
quote
picture.
before he died was one of the quotes he said that science will only make bigger discoveries when they start believing the earth is intelligent, the universe is intelligent.
Yeah.
Till that time, they will not be able to find anything.
Yeah.
This was the thing he found.
So what he was looking into is what is Vedanta. Now when he was listening to Vedanta, he was so sharp, he could figure out that entire science is based on observation, data collection. And intelligence and the nature of self is not available for objectification. So therefore, it can never, the normal scientific approach can never arrive at it. He understood that. But what he said is that in science, there is a methodology where there are hypotheses, right? There is an hypothesis which then needs to be tested, and then either it is it is valid, or it has to be discarded when the logic doesn't, the logic makes it fall apart somewhere. Then he says but whether the hypothesis is working or not, again it is based on data. So again this method will not work. But he says that there is another method in science which is what we call axiom. Axiom is that there are certain things which are taken as a fact. Let's suppose that this is a fact. And then you work backwards and scientifically. And then you say, okay, if this is a fact, then if everything is explained, so many things which are not explained by science, there are so many gaps in the science which they have no answer to. He says, if I take this as an axiom, and if I work backwards, and if everything falls in place, then that is valid. So he was trying to use Vedanta as an axiom. So these are the kind of people, they look to Vedanta, they are not just normal, this, oh yeah, I want to feel good. They are not feel good people, they are intelligent people who want to test what Vedanta is saying. And in fact, his paper was very well received by his professor. So that means that this is the level at which there are discoveries which are being made. So therefore, so whether it is a kind of a simplistic atheist or a scientist atheist, right? They need a correction, because the very formula that they are writing to them it is showing the intelligence of the universe, but they are seeing that, but they are not recognizing the intelligence. This is a paradox. Their thinking has to be so sharp and so logical to arrive at the formula, but they are still not able to see the intelligence behind it. They are not able to translate and say, my God, the universe and the arrangement of the universe shows so much intelligence. Then they are not able to make that shift. So they need a correction, and that is needed. Now agnostic is also what? Agnostic is what? Somebody who hasn't yet decided whether there is Ishvara or not. So now when you use this logic, they also need what? Correction. Because there is, if you really look at, you can't deny the presence of intelligence. So that means what? Like billions of cells in this body. How are you coordinating them? Are you putting them in place? Or do you even know which cells have gone today and which new cells have come? But some intelligent design is doing it in a very predictable manner. In spite of all these changes, there is what? A seeming stability. There is an intelligent design. That you can't deny. In fact, my teacher, when he was not well, he was trying out what is a recent what we call stem cell therapy. Stem cell therapy is his kidney was failing. So there are some cells within your own body, they are just cells, they are just there. They are not doing any specific job. So in that stem cell therapy, what they do is, they take those cells from your body and they place them in your kidney. By placing those cells in the kidney, after a while, they start behaving like what? Kidney cells. So that means, not only the cells have a function, but depending upon where they are placed, they have what? A different function. The same stem cell, if you put it in liver, it will behave like a liver cell. So that means all this intelligence is mind-boggling, mind-boggling. It can't be mechanical. So therefore, the one cell placed here behaves differently, placed here behaves differently, placed here behaves differently according to the organ. Mind-boggling. You just, it's some inert mechanical thing, you put it here, you put it here, you put it there, they're inconsequential. So therefore, this, if you really look at the universe intelligently, you cannot deny the intelligent design. So that is what we call the agnostic also need a correction. Now let's look at the believers. Generally you think that okay, the atheist is one thing, the agnostic is the other thing, and the believer. What is the position of a believer? The position of a believer is that this universe is an intelligent design, there must be a cause. But they also require a correction. Unfortunately, whether it doesn't matter which religion, whether it is a Hindu or it is a Christian or it is a Muslim, they all need correction. Why do they need correction? Because they have somehow figured out that there is an intelligence without which this universe cannot come about. But when it comes to where is that intelligence, all the problem starts. Where is that cause? So all of them, because they look around, again it is what? The perception. You look around, can anybody claim to be the cause of the universe? Tell me. Nobody around can claim to be the cause of the universe. Neither in the past, nor in the present, nor in the future. So because you don't see any local cause, then you say what? There must be a cause somewhere out there, away from me. Then where? So you give a name called heaven, and then you say that cause of the universe is sitting in the heaven and is created this world. That also requires a correction. Why does it require a correction? Because logically it doesn't hold. Why doesn't it hold logically? You ask simple questions. You don't have to go very far. You ask a simple question as to, so you are saying that the God sitting in heaven created the world. What is the material that the God used to create this world? The world is yet to come. So material, if it is already there, then what? Time is there, space is there, and material is there. Then why do you call him God? So that means, logically, if there was already a material, then what? Any material for it to exist, there has to be what? Time, space, and material that is in time, space. So that means there is some other cause which made this, using which this cause made the universe. So then you can say, who made this material? There is another cause. How can you call this one a cause? You see the logical absurdity?
But he first made the water and the earth.
So that means, so that means what? Who made? So where is the material? He made means, where is the material?
There was no material in the beginning.
Right, there was no material in the beginning, but if I say there is the creator, he has the power to make all the material first before he creates the
Exactly.
object.
So that means, absolutely, this is the answer. So that means the maker is the material. Maker is the material is the Vedic vision. When the maker is the material, so what he says, that what Lutz is saying, that the so-called intelligence itself manifested as time. Itself manifested as space. Itself manifested as what? All the different objects in the universe. So that means the maker and material are one. In every other theology, maker and material are two separate things. So that means Ishvara is sitting somewhere out there. When Ishvara is the material cause of the creation, so now look at this. In this case, in the case of this glass, there are two causes, the maker and the material. The maker of the glass can be what, I don't know where is this glass is made, I'm sure they are made in India, but in some factory, right? So there is an assembly line and there are some people who are fixing this glass, so that is the maker. Now, what is the material of this glass? Is the maker and the material the same? No. The material is what? This I don't know, nowadays they make it from plastic. There is no glass. Plastic, then there is this frame which is maybe steel. So this is the material. Now the maker can be away from this object. Can the material be away from this object? The maker is in some assembly line sitting there, I don't even know who it is. But can the material be away from this object? No. So the material cause cannot be away from the object. If Ishvara is the material cause of the creation, can it be away from the creation? Can't be away from the creation. So that means the Vedic view of Ishvara is not some entity sitting out there. That is the position of a believer. You need a correction in that position. Please don't equate Vedanta to religion. You do a big disservice to Vedanta. The atheists they need correction. The agnostic need correction. Even the believers need correction. They all three need correction. Because all three, they don't have the right position.
Like we said, God is there.
Yeah, exactly. So any relationship to God as something which is other than me is a wrong relationship. It doesn't, in that relationship there is no proper understanding of Ishvara. It is not the truth. That's why you need correction. Not because Vedanta is saying that's why you need correction. Any other way it falls apart. So that means we are approaching it in two ways. First, we are making you see the creation and making you see the presence of intelligence. In second, we are postulating some other position and we are showing logical fallacy. You understand the approach? So this is how anything, in order you deepen your understanding of things. This is a method of Vedanta. It's not just some loose claims. And if your thinking is not in keeping with what is, you need to change it. You can't resist because it's demonstrated. And you postulate any other thing and you will fall into a problem. You come to any other conclusion than what Vedanta is saying, your thinking will fall apart somewhere. And in fact, if you're a good thinker, you should say, okay, now let me suppose this is the thing. And you yourself should be able to see where your other postulation falls apart logically. This is how you deepen the understanding of Vedanta. This is how you get clarity in Vedanta. Otherwise, it just is superficial. Challenge yourself and see how it cannot be any other way. And it has to be you who figures it out. Otherwise, it always seems like somebody is trying to convince you. That somebody trying to convince you, you'll always say, I don't know whether it is true or not. When you yourself use this logic, series of logic, and says that now here, when I see it, can I deny it? Ask yourself this question. Show me where I can come up with any other kind of, where can I negate the presence of intelligence? You ask yourself. The second way you see is, okay, now there are three positions which are what one is negating the position of intelligence, the other one is doubtful about the position of intelligence, and the third one postulates that the intelligence is somewhere out there. Three possibilities, and all three fall apart. This is how you strengthen your knowledge, deepen your knowledge. So therefore, here it says that there is this intelligence. What does it do? So this is where he says, it is ksharam aksharam cha vyakta avyakta. Okay? Now the way this intelligence manifests the universe, there are certain things inside. In that manifestation, there is a constant shift from what manifest to the unmanifest. Anything that you see now, see this time, by the time I start the sentence and I finish the sentence, how many moments have passed? How many moments have passed?
You cannot count it.
In fact, you can't count. So therefore, every moment came into manifestation and became unmanifest. And the new moment came and it became unmanifest. Then the new moment came and it became unmanifest. So therefore, there are countless moments. By the time I finish one sentence, so many moments have changed. And those moments, generally we measure by what? When we use time, we use units. What are those units? You can say exactly. We can use hours, we can use minutes, we can use seconds, we can use microseconds, we use nanoseconds. And at every level, there are what? 1 minute has shifted to another minute, and 1 second by that time has changed to how many seconds? 60 seconds. And 1 second then has changed to, at the level of microsecond, how many? And nanosecond, how many? So that means manifest and unmanifest time. Now, the object occupies a given space. So that means it came into what? Existence at a given point in time. All of us have what? Birth dates. So let's say if I was born in 1960s, which year I will not tell you. So 1960s, then what? Before 1960s I was unmanifest. Now I am manifest, and in 30-40 years it will be unmanifest. So that means the time follows manifest, unmanifest. The body also follows what? Manifest, unmanifest. But within this manifestation, how many things, if I look at the cellular level, how many times while the body is existing, how many times things become manifest and unmanifest? How many times?
Countless.
Countless times. Whether it is your, you feel that, oh, by the time you're 40 you have to wear glasses. But the thing is that in order for that 40 to shift to glasses happen, there were so many small changes at the level of eye which were not visible to you. At 42 it became visible because you now need glasses. So that means not only the body and the cells but every organ undergoes what? Countless changes, manifest, unmanifest. So therefore, this is the design of the universe. The intelligence brings about what? A given manifestation at that given point in time, and it also makes that given thing unmanifest. But within the play of manifest and unmanifest, there is what? A seeming stability. Sustenance. So this is what the Vedic vision of that Ishvara, we give it a name. The intelligence, when you see it from the standpoint of its capacity to manifest, you call it Brahma. The same intelligence, when you see it from its capacity to destroy destroy, it is Shiva. And in between the